Wendy Dando was an English journalist, television presenter, and newsreader known for her work at the BBC. In 1997, she was named the Corporation's Personality of the Year. She was known for being on many shows, including co-presenting Crimewatch on BBC One with Nick Ross. Her life came to a tragic end in 1999 and led many people to believe something more sinister had taken place. Join me as I investigate the case of Jill Dando here on Corras Investigation. Before we get into what happened to Jill, we must first look at her upbringing. Jill Wendy Dando was born in Ashcombe House Maternity Home in Weston-super-Mare, Somerset. Her parents were Jack Dando and Winfred Mary Jean Hockey. Her brother Nigel worked as a journalist for BBC Radio Bristol. Dando had a heart surgery at the age of 3 and was raised as a Baptist. She attended World Infant School, Greenwood Junior School, World Community School and Broaddock Sixth Form Centre, where she was head girl. Dando later studied journalism at the South Glamorgan Institute of Higher Education. She was involved in amateur dramatics and volunteered at Sunshine Hospital Radio in Weston-super-Mare in 1979. Her career. Dando's initial job was a trainee reporter for the Western Mercury, where her father and brother also worked. She later transitioned to the BBC, starting as a newsreader for BBC Radio Devon in 1985. And moving to BBC South West, where she hosted Spotlight South West. In 1987, she joined Television South West before ultimately working at BBC Spotlight in Plymouth. Dando had switched to national television in London to present BBC News bulletins on both BBC One and BBC Two until the mid-1990s. She became known for hosting various BBC programs such as Breakfast Time, Breakfast News, The 6 O'Clock News, and Crimewatch, and many more. Dando was set to host Antique Inspectors in 1999 and present the British Academy Television Awards. Now let's look at the tragic murder of Jill Dando. On the morning of April 26, 1999, Jill Dando, aged 37, left a friend's house in Chiswick and returned to her home on 29 Gowan Avenue, Fulham. She was there to collect contract documents faxed by her agent. As she reached to the front door at 11:32 British Standard Time, she was shot in the head and found by a neighbour about 14 minutes later. The police were called at 11:47 and she was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. Witnesses like her neighbour Richard Hughes heard her scream but did not hear the gunshot. Hughes saw a 6-foot-tall white man, approximately 40 years old, walking away from the scene. Forensic analysis revealed she was shot with a 9mm short caliber pistol pressed against her head, which had likely been modified. The motive and the identity of the assailant remains unknown. The incident remains a shocking unsolved mystery since her tragic death in 1999. Her murder was reconstructed on Crimewatch, the show she hosted, to help identify her killer. After Barry George was charged and later acquitted, Crimewatch stopped seeking information on the case. Dando was a prominent BBC personality and the 1997 Personality of the Year. Antique Inspectors, the show she was set to host, continued airing as a tribute to Jill. Media coverage and wrongful accusations. After Jill Dando was murdered, there was intense media coverage and speculation about the motive. The Metropolitan Police launched Operation Oxborough, which proved fruitless for over a year. The murder investigation team spoke to 2,500 people and gathered over 1,000 statements within 6 months of the murder. Barry George, who lived near Dando, was eventually arrested and charged with her murder on May 2000. Despite being convicted at Old Bailey in 2001, George's conviction was overturned in 2008 after discredited forensic evidence was excluded from the case. After his acquittal, George received damages from the news group newspapers for articles that implied his guilt in the murder. The case against George was controversial due to the perceived lack of strong evidence, leading to his eventual acquittal in 2008. Now let's look at the police investigation. Police investigation into Jill Dando's murder considered various lines of inquiry, such as a jealous ex-boyfriend, an unknown lover, or a hired assassin seeking revenge for Crimewatch evidence. The involvement of Bosnian Serb or Yugoslav groups due to NATO's actions was also examined. Another theory was a deranged fan who had been rejected by Dando, but this was easily dismissed. Mistaken identity was deemed unlikely since the crime occurred at her own home. Claims that she has exposed a BBC paedophile ring and was targeted for it were denied by the BBC. Furthermore, the possibility of a professional rival or a business partner being involved was also explored, with Dando's agent even being interviewed as a suspect. Despite these diverse theories, the investigation did not uncover conclusive evidence to solve the case. The original police investigation initially considered the possibility of a contract killing in the murder of Jill Dando. However, it was deemed unlikely that the professional assassin would have had enough knowledge of her movements, as she rarely visited her Fulham residence where she was shot. CCTV footage from her last journey did not show any signs of being followed. Suspicions initially fell onto individuals in Dando's personal circle, such as the agent John Roseman and former lover Bob Wheaton, but both were cleared by detectives. On the night of her death, BBC colleague Nick Ross mentioned on Newsnight that related Tory attacks by criminals against law enforcement officials were rare in the UK. Forensic analysis indicated that a weapon used in the shooting was likely a converted replica or a decommissioned gun, suggesting the possibility of an opportunistic attack by an individual rather than a professional assassin. However, cold case reviewers conducted by the police later concluded that Dando was actually killed by a professional assassin in a hard contract execution using a gun pressed against her head as a suppressor. Now, there are many theories as mentioned in this case, but one that has intrigued a lot of people is the Kosovo War theory. In early 1999, during the Kosovo War, the UK and NATO opposed Serbia. Following the killing of Dando, calls were made claiming responsibility on behalf of Serb groups, citing revenge for NATO's bombing in Serbia and threatening more killings. These calls were considered potentially fake. During George's trial, his defense suggested that Arkan, a Serbian warlord, ordered Dando's assassination in retaliation for NATO's bombing of RTS headquarters. It was proposed that Dando's appeal for aid for Kosovo Albanian refugees attracted Bosnian Serb hardliners' attention. The NCIS provided a report on the Dando murder inquiry in 2019, including a link between Dando's murder, the RTS bombing, and Arkan involvement based on bullet markings matching other assassinations. A journalist in the Belgrade was also assassinated using a similar method. 4 Serbian Secret Service members were initially convicted in 2019 but acquitted on appeal in 2024, sparking criticism. Journalist Wolfenstein previously suggested a Yugoslav group's involvement in Dando's killing, challenging the police's dismissal of this theory. And so concludes the case of Jill Dando, a well-respected and loved BBC presenter who was unfortunately killed in mysterious ways, which most likely won't be solved very soon. So hopefully one day this case will be solved and her family and friends will hopefully get peace. But yeah, so concludes this case. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. It's going to be another short case, and also next week's also going to be a similar short case. I'll see if I can do maybe a compilation maybe one day, or maybe even a tier list. But no. I'll save the tier list for Christmas that time. Then I can do maybe like a stream or something like that. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until the next one, peace and cheers.